Well, hello there. Don't you look nice and breathable this fine evening? Today we are reviewing Medieval Dynasty by Rendicube. Medieval Dynasty is an open-world survival game available on PC, Xbox One, Series S and X, and PlayStation. It was initially released as early access in 2020, and about a year later it became a finished product, though that adjective is highly subjective in this particular case. Would you call a 30-year-old male's facial hair fully developed? Oh, I fucking hope not. Having played 11 hours of Medieval Dynasty, I gotta say that I feel somewhat cheated out of my money and, more importantly, my time, which I could have used in many different and more stimulating ways, like playing good games, for instance, or just jacking off. Hear me out. This is how they advertise the game on Steam. Hunt, survive, build, and lead in the harsh Middle Ages. The very first word they use to sell you on the game is hunt. Wanna see some hunting? Okay, let's hunt then. Titillating, isn't it? Why the fuck do these animals sound like this?
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Why is the doe, that's female deer in case you didn't know, looking back at me in such manner whenever I smack it in the rear?
Oh yes, Daddy.
And perhaps more importantly, why do the animals behave this way in general? Surely a boar's or wolf's first instinct upon being pierced by a 5-foot-long paw isn't to charge its attacker. You know what? Fuck it. I have just about had it with shitty combat after playing Elex 2, and now this. Thanos.
It's rewind time.
Whew. Hang on, I gotta calm myself down. And what better way of unwinding is there really than enjoying a refreshing San Miguel? It's made for nonconformist palates. A lager with explosive flavors and an adventurous spirit. You show me a beer with 7 awards, and I'll show you a delicate aroma of white fruits, bananas and apples, with a slight nuance of white bread and a floral base. At 5.4 ABV, you only need a few of these bad boys to turn a miserable evening into a hell of a banger. San Miguel. Goodbye loneliness. Hello bitches.
What's wrong with you?
Right, where was I? Who cares? Let's just get to the next point. For once, I just want to get straight to the fucking point. Graphically, the game is a strong 7. Both flora and fauna look good. They may not be animated well, but at least there's nothing wrong with their designs for the most part. But if you're after breathtaking vistas, you'd do well to keep searching, and let me know when you find them. Right, what's next? Combat. Fine, let's finish talking about combat then. Allegedly, there are bandits you have to dispatch. I'm guessing they only appear if you manage to stay awake long enough to build that fucking village, which, by the way, I tried. I really did try to build a small settlement. It's just so unbelievably dull, so lacking in any excitement that I just gave up. Anyway, I can only judge the game from what I personally experienced. And again, what I experienced was the following. Now folks, I am sorry to inform you that I was contacted by the Polish government just last night, and I know it sounds vague and kinda made up, but that's all I can say without risking mine or my wife's lives. They told me the gameplay bit must be in Polish or else... They never finished the sentence! Guys, I can't risk finding out what or else could mean. Może jakbym częściej polskiego używał, to nie siedziałbym tutaj teraz jak kretyn gapiąc się w skrypt, zastanawiając się jak powiedzieć gameplay loop po polsku. Thanks for sticking with me through this, y'all. You're the real niggas! Gameplay loop consists mostly of walking, and if that sounds interesting to you, then you really don't have to watch the rest of the review. Just buy the game, you'll love it. If you're not trekking from one village to another, oftentimes straight through water like a hippo, doing pointless shit for settlers you couldn't give less of a shit about, and reading what must be the most boring form of storytelling I have come across in a long time, then you're chopping down trees at the pace of an elderly woman suffering from osteoporosis who cannot afford a alendronate.
I think you need a good
Release.
No thanks, bro.
At one point, I entered a logging competition with some local peasant. Not sure how it got to that point, as I began blasting through dialogue like I blast through crates of San Miguel. Cheers, by the way. After a few hours of playtime, there is a huge lack of... How do I convey this to you? Wouldn't it be cool to enter a logging competition and the guy you're up against actually chops trees down? No, that would have been far too much work. Just send them off to cut a few trees down and then return to the lumberjack for the inevitable reward. It's the same thing with hunting competitions. Exactly the same thing. Hang on a minute. I am struggling to stay awake gathering materials to make money by selling handmade knives made out of sticks and rocks. If only those poor subs knew they could have just walked a few meters outside of their own villages to collect the materials themselves. Imagine how many crates of San Miguel this would get you. I actually reached out to San Miguel to see if they'd fancy sponsoring this video, and if this segment made it into the review, then I believe you can deduce for yourselves whether they agreed or not.
Fuck off.
Let us take a quick break from defecating on the game for a minute and go over sound design. It's okay. Good, not great. All sound effects are serviceable. Cutting down trees, throwing spears, footsteps, the 2 or 3 lines of voiceovers they bothered recording, it all sounds serviceable. It's just a shame they apparently decided to hire the guy responsible for sound design in Heroes of Might and Magic 4 Expansion to produce animal noises.
Only one can emerge victorious. Only one will weather the winds of war.
Music is where the game shines. All tracks were composed by Elina Ungarova, who goes by Queen of Noise, which sounds, No, I can resist. I am better than this. Queen of Noise sounds just fine, Elina. It fits the setting rather well, and is actually a perfectly accurate auditory representation of what the game plays like. Let's have a listen together. What do you say, champ? See, it blends in with the boring nature of Medieval Dynasty perfectly. Also, being able to customize your game at any given moment is certainly a nice touch for a game like this. Inspector mode, which turns the heat signature of twigs, herbs and rocks on, is also pretty handy. Nothing quite as refreshing as dirt water. Mild spoilers up ahead, like really mild, but if you're a purist then go here to avoid them. The story goes like so. Rachimir, a young farmer boy, runs from his war-torn country or city or whatever, I told you, they're mild, towards some secret valley up north that the bad guys don't know about. He wants to follow in his late Uncle Jordan's steps, to build himself a better life and to produce offspring. That's essentially it. The story is so uninteresting, I was constantly yawning while typing this shit. If there is a god out there, smite me, please. Lord knows I probably deserve it anyway. What else is there to it? I don't know. Look at this shit. There is so much text, and none of it is so mundane that, like I mentioned earlier, I stopped reading it all. How can I review a game I didn't even finish or don't know the complete story of? That is precisely why I can review it. I was so disengaged from the whole thing, and none of it spoke to me on any level, in any way, shape or form, that I couldn't continue playing it, and I think that speaks volumes of the quality or lack thereof of storytelling. Not even the building aspect of the game is interesting. You know what I used to do in Sons of the Forest? I'd spend hours upon hours placing log after log to build defensive walls around my enormous camp, and not once have I thought of using console commands or cheats for that. You know why? Because the animations are great, as are all the sound effects. There is a satisfying meatiness to it all. Meatiness that RenderCube failed to replicate in their game. And yes, I am aware that Medieval Dynasty came out a few years before Sons, therefore they couldn't replicate any aspects of that game because it didn't exist at the time. Welcome to the channel where nothing makes sense or has any cohesion to it whatsoever. Cheers. Why don't you do us all a favor and smack that sub button and like the video, champ? You don't want to mess with me. I am friends with Conan the Barbarian on Discord.
Get out of here!
What did she just call me?
Fee!
I just walk up and grab it! I just grab it!
Before I actually stopped playing the game, I went on YouTube to check out some late gameplays. You know, maybe I was still missing something. Maybe there was more to Medieval Dynasty and I just hadn't gotten to it yet. Alas, there wasn't. The last 5 hours of the game are exactly as much fun as the first. Permission to rate the game now, Your Honor. Granted. Don't know why I made the judge sound horny, but I suppose some things are beyond our control. Life's funny like that sometimes. I'd recommend Medieval Dynasty to somebody whose cardiologist recommended that they steer clear of fun and excitement in life. The game is, in my opinion, so mild, so dull and tedious that it just isn't worth your time and money. You want to build something in first person? There are better alternatives. You want to continuously upgrade your settlement as your technological abilities grow? There are better alternatives. You want to go hunting? Better alternatives. You want to fuck your wife? Unsurprisingly, better alternatives. I could keep going, but my wife's already staring daggers at me, so I will leave it at that. Medieval Dynasty. A strong 5 if I'd ever seen one. A 5 that is most definitely not worth the full asking price. Dear RenderCube, just because you've put a lot of work into something, and I actually believe you have, by the way, doesn't automatically mean it's a good product. Just a couple of months ago, I spent 2 whole days cooking bone broth, only to fuck it up by adding too much vinegar to it. So believe me when I say I know how it feels to spend a lot of time on something that in the end turns to shit anyway. Having said all that, why don't we invite somebody else to give us their opinion on the game? Someone who, actually finished the game. Ladies and... who am I kidding? There are no ladies in this cesspool. Gentlemen and freaks of nature, welcome Larissa from Lamo Reviews. Let's see what she has to say about Medieval Dynasty.
Thanks, George.
You're welcome!
As someone who doesn't have a wife to engage with sexually, nor the mental or physical capacity to build a settlement myself, I thought Medieval Dynasty offered a very immersive and realistic setting to do things I could never hope to achieve in real life. And I'm not just talking about sex with my non-existent wife. In this medieval-themed town management game, you can build your own settlement, explore a large open world, hunt animals,
What are you doing, step bro?
and craft various items, all of which is accompanied by a not-so-great story, which is for the most part optional, thank God. While initially quite difficult to learn, once you get the hang of things and take your very first steps towards building your own little town, it feels very rewarding. You'll get quite a lot of creative freedom here, as well as you can choose exactly where you want to build and in what manner you want to build it. As you grow your town, you can have other villagers move in, and if you supply them with the right tools, they can perform jobs such as hunting, chopping wood, and gathering water, which is helpful as you'll need to supply food, water, and wood to keep your residents happy. It's not an easy game, that's for sure, nor is it a short one either. This game is a commitment, but a rewarding one at that. Back to you, George.
A round of applause for Larissa, folks. It takes balls to willingly appear in as demented a channel as this. If you're a fan of genuinely pleasant indie games, then you should definitely check her out. She's actually the one who recommended Dredge to me, so she's not wrong all the time. There's gonna be a video on that game too, and if you haven't seen Past the Point of No Refunds for it yet, go and give it a go. I'll wait. Special shout out to Leandro, who joined us on Patreon as Degenerate Lord. Now there's a guy who doesn't fuck around. And given that San Miguel chose to ignore my request for financial backing, it will most certainly prove very valuable in these troubling times. You have my gratitude. Word. Leandro asked, what's the one thing you enjoy the most in the game? By the game, I assume you meant Medieval Dynasty. The soundtrack. I really liked what Elena did with it. Shame Renderkeep took it in a different direction though. Wanna have your own question featured? Head on over to my Patreon for more information. Just like a child molester puts a lot of effort into molesting, I too have put a considerable amount of planning and work into improving everything about the ever barren and shitty Patreon that I've had. There's definitely more bang for your buck now, with lots of perks and rewards for each tier that you might be interested in.
Don't hold back. Don't hold back. Send the fucking money, bitch.
Go on. Have a gander. I overheard your mother when she was getting ready for bed the other night, and she wants you to check it out too. Wouldn't want to disappoint her anymore now, would you? Join the Degenerates Club on Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links to everything in the description. And if you managed to get this far into the video, you have my sincere thanks. Marcel, Lubomir Mitkov, Spigazu, and James Mikhailovich, my beloved patrons. God may not love you, but I do with all my heart. Thank you for your continued support and generosity. That's it for today. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.